Mhm.
Hey, this is Robert. Thank you for tuning into the show. And yeah, hope everybody is doing, wonderful out there. I know it's summertime. I know that the heat can be pretty unbearable, but regardless, we're here and we're just getting through another day. You know what I mean? So today we're just going to be talking with somebody who I've interacted with, like it's been a few years or so, but I'm just surprised that we haven't really like did a on camera like chat or just anything like this. So this is Jazzy Oliver. Thank you so much for joining me on this afternoon's Saturday episode, I guess.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So I guess to start this off, like how's everything going? Because I know you've kind of been, working on so many different projects. So what is something that you like to share or talk about and just yeah, like what's something that's been keeping you pretty, productive these days?
Well, mostly, the folks over on Animation Epic mainly have me wearing a bunch of different hats for them, both in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
voicing different characters as well as I cast for them and I edit shorts for them. So in terms of like the arts and entertainment side of things, that's where most of my attention tends to focus on.
Yeah. So it's for like inanimate insanity, just to be more specific.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I know that's kind of been, making the rounds on the internet, for like indie animation stuff, because I know that that area tends to be like, oh yeah, indie animation is kind of like really starting to pick up steam in, these crazy times. So, I mean, I'm not really complaining. Like it really is like it's kind of like a new age where a lot of streaming and indie is kind of starting to really pick up the slack because for mainstream stuff, it's like, yeah. Yeah, I've already went over it in previous stuff. So yeah, indie animation, like, yeah, support creators and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
no, like I feel like in an age where it's hard for any original ideas in the realm of animation to really make it as far as like bigger corporate names go, I feel like indie is the space where those ideas are allowed to fully flourish. And because there's kind of a need for more like original and creative ideas, I feel like we have so many success stories as a result. I mean, look at most of Glitch's catalog, for example. That's like every series there is finding like its audience.
Yeah, and it definitely does have its audience. And for glitch stuff, yeah, it's kind of like one of those big, the big three where you have like Vivzy Pop, you have Glitch, and then there's also I mean, I think Circus is also technically a part of Glitch. So,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
there's,
Digital
yeah.
Circus is. Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
So what I was thinking about is Lackadaisy, which is also something that has been really taken off,
Hmm.
by storm with its own fan base and whatnot. And I guess this is kind of also becoming like another one where it's kind of like fitting into the indie animation kind of like, you know, Renaissance era, so to speak, where, like I said, creators are finally starting to let their imagination and voices be heard. And, each of their ideas are just starting to yeah, just explode. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I've noticed it in the last few years, especially is that, the popularity of a lot of indie shows are exploding. Like
Yeah.
when I joined Inanimate Insanity, that show did have success. That show did have fans, but even in just the last few years, I've noticed like a spike and it was kind of crazy to see, like especially someone who joined in as late as I did. So,
Yeah. And it's kind of like it really is a time to be alive when it comes for this type of stuff, just being made and so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, I think it's something along the lines of, I asked you what's something that's been keeping you occupied, but what would you say are some of like the projects that you've done recently where you're just like, oh my God, wow, I still cannot believe I'm actually doing this, you know what I mean?
I definitely falls under that.
Yeah.
There's been a couple projects I got to keep under wraps at this point where I'm like, oh, I can't
hmm
believe I got to do this, and I can't wait to announce those when I do. As far as fan projects go, I found plenty of new fans through the Danganronpa fan project, Tetra Blue, which has been an absolute blast to work on so far, and I'm happy people are enjoying my character and everything.
Yeah, and I know that it's with characters like that, you just never know what kind of um, reaction is going to get out of people. You know what I mean? Like whether people are warming up receptively. Like you just never know because
Oh,
when you're putting yourself out there, it's like, yeah, who knows?
yeah, you never know. You never know like how people are going to react, whether you're playing a character who's debuting or a character who had a voice actor, but for some reason or another you need to take over. And I've experienced all those levels of anxiety of how receptive our audience is going to be of my involvement.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and it's kind of yeah. Once again, when you put yourself out there, like it is kind of the sky's the limit. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's something that I've kind of always been interested in. It's like, what was something that actually got you, started in voice acting? Because I've known you for a while, but I don't know if I ever really kind of have like a full like story of how you kind of found voiceover to be kind of like the your bread and butter. You know what I mean?
So when I was a kid, I had a lot of DVDs of Nickelodeon shows, particularly SpongeBob, and one thing they had on there that was always cool was they had behind the booth footage of folks like Tom Kenny,
Oh
Roger
yeah.
Bumpus, and the
Oh
cast
yeah. Yeah.
recording. And that even like and that was when I was very young, but even then that there was something about that just clicked with me. Um, Years later, I took up voice acting as a hobby through projects on YouTube. Some of those are still up. I probably won't say what they are under risk of I sound horrible in them. So, but then I ended up taking classes for voiceover, specifically at I attended school in Vancouver for about 6 months. I went there. I went to School Creative to get my certificate to basically learn and major in acting on film and television. And that one had like a very high profile voiceover class that I took, specifically with there were two actors we mainly had for that one, and one was Brian Doe, who MLP fans will recognize as the voice of Timber Spruce in the Equestria Girls movies. And then there was Alex Zahara, who I personally knew because he voiced in the English dub of one of my favorite films, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. So it was kind of wild to be in there, but I learned through them. I got what I needed on the business side, but like I still needed to actually get jobs for me to do while I worked on my portfolio and everything, and it just kind of faded. But then COVID hit in 2020 and I got laid off, so I decided, hey, I took classes for this. Why don't I pursue it? So I got a reel put together in 2020 and I just kept auditioning.
Yeah. And along the way, who else would you also say that you consider to be very much, oh, they really helped me along the way. Like I owe a lot to them. Like if you were to shout out friends and, anybody that you want to, throw out there.
One of
Yeah.
the first people to really help me get my name out there was Bel Rusape, who helped me with he wrote my reel and he was also very encouraging on my work and like recommended me to auditions wherever he could. Lucia Lobos Villa was also a huge help in just in the encouragement side of things and also really taking a chance on me like in some of her projects she was doing at the time when I had nothing to my name at that point. So I'm always appreciative to her in that regard. And as far as teachers go, who just kept working with me to really keep improving my craft, I'm always going to shout out JP Karliak from Queervox as well as Aaron Fitzgerald.
They're really great, man.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, when you talk about JP and Aaron, both of them are kind of well, specifically with JP because I know he um is doing like a lot of great stuff where, he has like the Queer Box group, but then also like he's just a really just wonderful. He's just a really great person and just really he's a really chill dude. So it's like
Yeah,
if you want to talk to him about just anything, he'll really just if you kind of talk to him about like, just geeky nerdy stuff, which is kind of like what podcasts are for, where you just talk about something and then you just kind of talk each other's ears off for like hours on
of
end.
course. Of course.
Yeah. And same with Erin. It's like, yeah. Um, I think she was really the one who helped me just learn how to make the most out of cold reading, if that makes sense, because she teaches the Alexander technique,
Yes.
and it is something that I really still carry with me. I mean, the same with like Richard Harvis, where like they really emphasize the art of playing pretend and also just getting out of your head and just really mastering the art of cold reading and just really creating a character with
Mhm.
just very limited resources.
Absolutely.
To put it simply, yeah.
Erin was particularly great about taking my, because I had experience in theater prior to voiceover, and she was really good at taking what I had learned there and better incorporating it into my voice work.
Yeah, because you got the projection, you got so many techniques that I've discussed a lot in previous episodes. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I really not sure what else to add to that, but I mean, hey, I always say to people, like, if you want to do voiceover, like, definitely take, acting, not voiceover classes, but like specifically on camera, film, acting stuff, and improv. Always very, very big on improv.
Yeah,
Just
I had mentioned
100%.
I had
Yeah.
mentioned school creative earlier, and yeah, primarily their work was mainly in terms of teaching was teaching on camera work, but there like again voiceover was just kind of a small part, kind of a smaller part of that. But there was a lot in the on camera stuff that would get incorporated into the work on our voiceover stuff. So even if it was in small ways.
Absolutely. And I know for you, it's kind of definitely become because when you first got your start and now we're here in 2025, I know it certainly has been quite a journey. So what would you say was something that you really took the most, like something like an experience that you might have had that you're just like, okay, wow. So I've definitely learned something, and you just still apply it, carry it with you day to day when it comes to VO or any of the other stuff that you're doing right now.
There was a project I was in that ended up not working out, and it was due to the fact that the creative heads involved just weren't doing their job and were just very unpleasant. I had taken the job because I'm not going to name anyone, but there were a few folks in the cast that I was ecstatic to potentially be working with. But the project was just a disaster, and I did see red flags like pretty early on. And when it all fell apart, and we like the entire cast, including myself, eventually left, there was just no surprise to me. And I think that just taught me to if s- trust my gut a bit more because sometimes I just don't, and I really need to. Like because there was just so much about this project that just wasn't vibing with me, I guess you can say. And my only regret is that I wish I left it earlier because the like what ended up all happening was just terrible. So if something sound like my general vibe is to just like take the opportunities. If you're working with someone who you've been excited to work with, cool. But if the project seems like a disaster, maybe just keep an eye out and trust your gut a bit.
It's, that is very much, that is so true, man. I mean, I'm just like, there's so many times where you're just like, man, like I was saying, you just don't know what you're going to get yourself into, but man, you're definitely going to learn something out of it one way or another.
Of course.
Yeah. Um, Let me see. There was another question I had that was kind of around in the ballpark that was a good segue, but I am blanking on it. Okay, there we go. There we go. Um, so on that note, it's something that you've definitely learned a lot from, but what is something that you really love so much after doing voiceover for so many years?
I think the thing I love so much, especially with the fact that I've gotten these crazy big opportunities to voice in stuff that so many people have seen. I just like meeting people, like whether it be work, like meeting people who work on these projects, whether it be meeting the fans. Like I just last month, I was at a meetup in New York specifically for II, and it's always just crazy to me seeing how many people are just happy to see me and I don't and that's just nuts to me. So I'm always just happy meeting people, honestly, and that's always my favorite part. I like making people happy.
Yeah, it's such a great mindset to have.
Right.
And would you say that that's been the number one thing that's been really keeping you positive in these during these times?
I'd say so. Just making people happy is what I live for. It's why I wanted to get into entertainment. I want to entertain people. One of the most meaningful things that happened during that meetup was we met a couple of mothers of kids who were fans of II, and they just were telling us we're so grateful for everything you do. Like our kids were able to really come out of their shells socially because they found the series, found the fandom, and just have been generally more like finding this space to express themselves. And like they were grateful to me, and all I do is scream into a microphone for them. I don't write this series, I don't direct it. My biggest creative involvement is helping with casting. And that just means a lot to me. Like when I hear stories of people who just got something positive out of this, whether it just be, oh, it perked me up on a bad day, or it helped me in a dark time. I just like just the idea that I can just by doing this, I'm able to put a smile on people's faces just means the world to me.
That is so great.
Mhm.
And that kind of brings to mind conventions. So if you were to share any convention stories that left a really positive impact on you, whether it's II or just anything else, feel free. Yeah, just totally share it with us.
Yeah, I had mentioned that uh like I said, it's mostly just people who just love the character. I have met both at conventions and even online. There have been people who told me because Paintbrush is a non-binary character, and it was a big deal when that happened because you don't really get a lot of characters who are not only non-binary but actually openly say it. There is an episode where they say the words verbatim, I'm non-binary. And the fact that I've met people who just are not only happy to have that representation, but now that I've taken over as someone who falls under the non-binary umbrella, um, just hearing people learn that, just learning that this character helped a lot of those people discover they were non-binary or discovered just something about themselves, and just learning that always warms my heart. And I've always had, and that's a story I've had many times, both at conventions and just in my social media DMs.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you go to conventions, you kind of do meet like some really interesting folks, like whether good or bad, but I'm just really, yeah, trust me, there's so many stories, but yeah, I'd be here all day, but thankfully though, the ones that really do manage to leave a positive influence on you definitely outweigh the negatives. You know what I mean? I mean,
Oh,
it's like,
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, there's always bound to be just not so great people in the industry, but it's at the end of the day, I'm just really happy to be because in my experience, the ones that really last a long time are the ones that, how can I put this? They're very persistent. They're always willing to lend a hand and work tirelessly on their craft every single day.
Hmm.
Period. All day, every day. Yeah, all day, every day. Oh my God. But yeah, definitely take breaks. But yeah,
Of
still,
course.
I definitely do want to give those that really do bust their butts to make all of this happen. I mean, when it comes to content, acting, all this stuff that we're seeing everywhere now, it wasn't like this probably in a decade or so ago. Like, you wouldn't see something like Inanimate Insanity or, the circus or anything that we just mentioned. You wouldn't see anything like that like around 10-ish or so years ago. But right now, definitely seems to be in an area where as we're starting to see like a huge downturn in like mainstream stuff, it's kind of like the stuff where a lot of the artists' individual voices are really starting to be heard out there, like I was saying before.
Hmm.
So yeah, just when you put yourself out there, like it's um it's definitely gonna be a roller coaster, but man, the positives, like I said, just always outweigh negatives, like I was saying before.
Of course.
Absolutely. So let me see. Anything? So I know you can't talk about some stuff right now. So anything that we might want to check out from you in the future?
Like I said, as far as the Inanimate Insanity is currently on its fourth season and it's currently ongoing right now. Not only have I am my back as Paintbrush, but I'm also voicing Silver Spoon now, and and I was once again the season's casting director. So even when I'm not voicing in an episode, a lot of my work is just on there through like the different actors we managed to get on board who are absolutely owning it right now. So I'd say definitely check that out. Tetradunganronpa Blue is currently ongoing. I've on the channel Von Babbitt. I voiced the character of Hirose, and that's been a lot of fun. I hope y'all are enjoying that. Uh, Other than that, unfortunately, a lot of what I voice in is very adult and mature, so I don't know like what I could say.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, and especially since this is kind of like this isn't really like an adult podcast or anything,
Right.
so we're just trying to
Oh,
keep things. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah, I should warn y'all. Tetra has language then. Tetra has strong language. People swear a lot.
Good to know. But yeah, this kind of sort of all this talk about indie animation, this kind of made me start thinking about like media or just all of this other stuff that I wanted to discuss real quick. So,
Mhm.
what would you say was some of the like whether it's a game, a show, movie, just anything? What would you say were like some of the biggest pieces of entertainment stuff that really also inspired you, just in
Um,
general?
My favorite movie of all time is A Silent Voice. It is a movie directed by
Wow.
Naoko Yamada, basically about a depressed kid who tries to make amends with a deaf girl he bullied in elementary school, and basically kind of this whole theme. The story is kind of this whole theme of forgiveness and friendship and understanding and everything, and I like it a lot. And one thing I loved about the English dub particular is they got a deaf actress to play that character, and I thought it added like this air of authenticity to it, and it made me realize, as someone who is also in a marginalized group, that being I'm trans, I'm gay, and like all that, is like how much authentic casting and how much being able to tell our stories means to me, like because like a silent voice, from what I can understand, was probably not written by someone who like had this disability, but by simply casting someone who did in that role, it added something, you know? Like there was something there that wouldn't have been there had that casting decision not been made.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
like
and
that's the thing too. Yeah. Continue.
mhm,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, and I've kind of followed that approach in my own casting work as well. Like we were when we were casting for the character Poppy in II season 4, like I noticed that the pronouns were they them, and I asked the creative team. I was like, okay, hey, do we like would you I think we should really prioritize, if Poppy's non-binary, we should probably prioritize non-binary talent. So that like that's always so I think just being able to bring that authenticity to it just goes a long way.
Exactly. Pretty much my thoughts exactly. And there's so much that we could discuss about why, with media and so on and so forth. Like, there's so many different discussions that we could just talk, like, with movies and, certain tropes. And I mean, these are all episodes that I would love to do at later down the line at some point in the future.
Mhm.
Because I know, like, if we do something like this, it would take us like an hour, not gonna lie. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's so much that I want to, yeah. So I think on that, we'll probably put a pin on this and maybe just do a follow-up at some point, just discussing like, you know, the good and the bad of, shows and, all this junk we consume, I guess. But for now, what would be the
Absolutely.
last,
Absolutely.
yeah, but what would be like the last closing piece of advice that I wanted to leave us with, at least for the time being?
Well, so I've done voiceover panels, and the advice that I always make sure to put in there, no matter what, I can go off on so many tangents. I could go off and say, and then I can do this presentation in like thousands of different ways, regardless of using generally the same slideshow I've always done. But the one piece of advice I always make sure I do not neglect to tell people, and I will say that here, is to find your voice. I have people come to me all the time and say, "Oh, I can do this funny voice." Great. I want to know what your voice has. Like your natural speaking voice is the strongest you've got. And I just want to, if I were to give any advice to new voice actors or even those like well on their way, it's to never neglect the fact that your voice is yours. It's unique. You might be able to say, "Oh, hey, I can do a good Yuri Lowenthal impression." Cool. Yuri Lowenthal's still working. If studio,
Yep.
if projects want him, they can have him. You need to be able to offer what you have, and your voice is the most unique one you will have in your arsenal at the end of the day. So always place like so much value in your own voice is what I'd say.
Yeah. You pretty much just hit it on the head, man. It's like, hey, I could do this. Somebody already is doing it. So
Right. Right.
I don't want to be that dude that's just like, actually, well, but what is something that's gonna make you kind of different from Yuri Lowenthal? Just don't do Yuri. That sounds really wrong. But just don't try to copy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, there we go. Don't try to copy Yuri or what he did. Just be you. Like,
Right, right. Like, you know, a lot of people tell me it's like, oh, your normal voice is used for a lot of stuff. It's like because it's the most unique one I have. I'm rarely being asked to do like big character voices or anything. I'm usually just asked to come in and read it as me. So,
yeah, just give it that little jazzy spin on it. Why don't
right,
you?
like that's what I'm booking roles with most of the time. I'm rarely at a point where I'm having to do like this big character voice. Like Tetra, where I did have to do that was a big exception. But before that, I think the one I where I did do a big character voice was probably Deadly Night. And like and that's just me trying to think far back a bit.
That is a pull. But yeah, but anyways, TLDR, just what's something that you can offer that is probably gonna stand out from the thousand or so actors that are probably gonna do like their own version or their own take.
Right.
Just do the best, just be the best you can be, okay?
Right. Right. Just
Just
and
don't
also
try to
just
copy somebody else. Yeah.
right. And just be yourself. Be like because um one story when I did my first bit of anime work, I went into the session and like the director was just talking to me because I never done anime before, so this director never worked with me. And they were like, "Oh, how's it going?" And like we were just conversing while we are getting anything set up. And I was just so bubbly and full of energy because a lot of the time during sessions I am. I know I've been pretty like down to earth during this interview, but that's because I save my energy for recording. So but like I had all this energy and I was just bubbly and happy. And like the director turned to the audio engineer and they were like, "Yeah, we made the right choice when casting you as this very bubbly character." So
Yeah, and like I said, just go in there and just offer what you can bring to the character. Not
mhm,
what, oh, I'm just gonna do what Yuri or who so on and so forth did for this. Just no, just
mhm.
be you.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say. And
Mhm,
there's plenty more advice that I could give. I mean, since we're on the subject of Yuri, just buy the book voiceover, voice actor. Yeah,
mhm.
just buy the book that he and Tara Platt did. So, boom, there you go. Like, trust me, that has way more that we could give on a 30-minute episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let me see. Also, what else? Voice acting mastery with Christopher Freeman is another good one. I want to be a voice actor. The Ron Paul's. There's so many great podcasts out there.
Mhm.
Jim Cummings also has a really great podcast too. So if you want to check those out, definitely can do it. But this is so fun. Thank you so much for joining me, Jazzy. And
No problem.
I'm just so jazzed to have you on my show.
Hey.
Yeah, I gotta get that in there.
Well, I was happy to be here and answer your questions. I hope I did an okay job. I haven't done a lot of interviews, so I'm like, oh, okay. Let's see how this goes.
Well, I think you did a really great job. So, if anybody were to check out, yeah, just see what you're doing, working on, and just, yeah, where can people, I mean, see what you're doing, like for II or just anything that you're up to on a date. She's kind of almost sounds like stalking, but
It's all
yeah,
good. It's all good.
Just do it in a healthy way, okay?
All
Just
right.
don't, please.
In terms of if you want to see like the show where most of my work's going on, definitely go to Animation Epic on YouTube and Animate Insanity. It's a lot of fun. In terms of my personal channels, you can find me on Jazzy Oliver VO on YouTube. I post a lot of bloopers and other things from my work and also shit posts because that's what I do. So, you can also and on socials you can find me on ladyjazzington.bsky.social on Blue Sky. I'm also on Tumblr a bit more nowadays. You can find me there under Jazzy Oliver VO. The blog's called all that jazzy. So so
Okay.
so yeah, there you go.
Nice. And any last words?
Am I gonna die? That had a threatening aura of like any last. I'm like, oh, I didn't think this was the last interview I was ever doing.
No, like any closing thoughts of
Uh,
yeah,
just keep on keeping on. If you like, to everyone out there listening, just keep on being you.
pretty much. Yeah. And I usually do an outro where you just say your name and list projects you've done. And this is Station Square with me, Robert Jackson, if you're up for it.
Sure. Hello, this is hello. Let me try again. Hello, I'm Jazzy Oliver, the voice of Paintbrush and Silver Spoon over on Inanimate Insanity. You're listening to Station Square with Robert Jackson.
Bingo. And with that, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a great rest of the summertime and enjoy the month and just get out there, swim, drink lots of cold refreshments. Don't drink anything that's sus or anything. But yeah, just drink responsibly. Stay cool. Stay awesome. God bless. Have a lovely day. Peace.